Welcome back to Lenz, Comic Corner Classic Non-Classics. This episode number 1976, double number 1870. I have a Dark Horse trade and an IDW trade. First, I have an IDW trade. Now, here's the thing from IDW. This particular trades from this franchise, I very rarely review this anything, because the only thing I review for this one, it's from Star Trek, obviously. Mostly where I review for this stuff is mostly just the Near Universe stuff and the crossover with Planet of the Apes. But this actually is the first review one of the. This is actually one of the two Countdown comics that IDW ever released, because they didn't. I don't think they did this for. I think they may have done it for Star Trek Beyond, and this is the only one I can think of that's a countdown to an actual TV show, because they did one for the movies. They did for pretty much all three Calvin Timeline movies, but not for a TV show. We have Star Trek Picard Countdown by Kristen Beyer and Mike Johnson. Those of you not familiar with the name Kristen Beyer, she's actually the writer of some of the Star Trek novels. So they brought someone who actually writes some good Star Trek novels. Mike Johnson is basically a regular writer for IDW. I believe he wrote if I remember correctly, he wrote the Star Trek comic, The Focus on the Kelvin Time, and Star Trek to both Go, which kind of basically that one. There was a time skip toward the finale of Star Trek Beyond, and that series filled in that gap. In the case of the Star Trek comic book that was ongoing, where like that one, mostly put for that one, it mostly, like the first half of the series mostly took place between the original Kelvin Time movie, which is Star Trek 2009, and then basically about half of this series, it basically jumped and went to right after events of Star Trek Into Darkness, and kind of leading into Star Trek Beyond. And the book only lasted 50 issues, and there's actually a fan favorite story in that series where they had the Kelvin Timeline Star Trek original series crew encounter Q, and it's the John Delancey Q, and brought to the future or an alternate future related to like the DS9 stuff. Great series that is. I probably will review that at some point in the future. Yes, I probably will. But here we're discussing Star Trek Picard Countdown. Now, does this lead into directly on TV show? Not necessarily. You could say this book is set before the flashback is shown in the very first season of the show, where the structure of the Utopia shipping yards, which they were in the show confirmed to be destroyed by a bunch of androids, which they've heard of as synthetics for reasons. And for some reason, the writing of her called to have these androids referred to as plastic people. I'm like, what the heck? Seriously? Like, Star Trek Picard has some really dumb ideas. I mean, I like Picard himself. I think he's done great in the show by the awesome Patrick Stewart. Him and his cast around him is really good. It's some of the other stuff in the show is complete bullcrap. By the way, the Utopia Arts destruction was actually caused by basically a sect of the Tal Shiar, who are freaking paranoid about artificial intelligence. I'm not kidding about that. Now, this book mostly serves as an introduction to three characters who do pop up on Star Trek Picard. You have the first appearance in here of Picard's former Force officer. No, it's not Riker. It's not Worf. It's the one appearing in Picard. I believe her name is trying to think what was her name. They say it takes place in 2386, so this is probably just before that. Now, we do see the first appearance of Laris and Tasha, two Romulans who do appear in the TV show, and they look really different. Yeah, well, Picard himself is basically drawn like what he is in the show. And we do see in here somebody who, here's the strange thing, to date up until the first season show, did not appear in the first season show or the second season, but he has been confirmed to appear in the second and third season. LaForge. Yes, played by the awesome LeVar Burton, who was a fan campaign to be host of Jeopardy. So here we see Picard as an Admiral. This actually is the first time we see this particular uniform, this very comic book. We did see a variation of this in the Star Trek Countdown comic, but this is a slight altered costume. Now, here's the strange thing about Star Trek Picard that is basically not been totally explained in the show. Now, for a long time, we had these series of novels that took place after Star Trek Nemesis. And they're great novels. And apparently anything after Star Trek Nemesis becomes a novel form is basically considered to be set in a different universe. Yeah, it was confirmed in the finale for the novels where this all set in a completely different universe. Now, now they do mention in here about the Titan. Now, Picard is in Romulan space. Now, they do keep part of what happened in the 2009 comic canon, which having the supernova. Now, mostly for the story of this one is Picard back in a colony, which has some stuff they did not mention to them. The colony itself had a population of 10,000 Romulans. But there's actually native populations play up, a native population of 5 million. Yeah. And then we see his ship, which is known as a Verity. Yeah, this is kind of the ship he's the command of, which looks like a souped-up version of Voyager, mostly. They do mention here... Okay, Raffi, that's the name, Raffi. Yeah, this is actually another character who does pop up on the show. Now, her calling him JL, this probably is the first time I heard her call it, because if you watch the show, she always calls him JL. As far as I can tell, it's because they're quite close, per se. It was hinted at the end of the first season show that she was actually Lil Picard. Then by the second season, that was completely ignored and have her hook up with 7-9. Yeah, seriously. Kristoff does not appear in the comic at all. He is nowhere to be seen. 7-9, nowhere to be seen. It's mostly just introductions to a few characters. And they go to the planet. I do love the artwork here. The artwork is fantastic. Picard himself looks great. Done by Angel Hernandez, who does an absolute great job. Yeah. Capturing Picard's Patrick Stewart's likeness really well. Raffi, as far as I can tell for her, the actors do look a little different in this, but they probably had a good idea what she looked up. But Valeris, Laris herself, she actually looked a little different. Here she looks quite young, while the actress looks a little bit older. Maybe because the actress is in her mid-50s. So, yeah, and also we have it where, the Romulans still wearing these goofy outfits. Yeah, the outfits they first showed up back in the frickin' 80s. Yes, for some reason they still have them wear these things. So, mainly the reason why the colony was picked because it's close to supernova. Which, okay, this actually was kind of mentioned in the show with the whole evacuation stuff. And of course, basically, the Hell Shi'ar basically are trying to sabotage the evacuation efforts. But looking up, the Romulan government shows up and it says, "So we continue to start to Picard," and you might be thinking, does this comic lead to the show? No, because Picard is out of Starfleet by the time the show starts. Yeah, he's out of Starfleet because after what happened, you told me police shipping yards, he just if you don't want me, fine, I'll resign. And they accepted resignation. He resigned right after that controversy. Though after the events of the first season, he was restored to being Admiral. By the way, I get that trade roughly a 9.5. It's an excellent book. Yes. So, could you say this book is kind of canon to the show? Yes, because basically stuff... Now, the stuff in the show, the comic does not really mention the show much, but they do have characters who appear in this book do appear in the show. Picard, obviously, by Raffi and Laris. This kind of, in a way, does kind of lead into basically how they become people who work for Picard on his vineyard, which that kind of sets it up. So if you read this comic part of the show, you get a good prologue to the show itself. But that's mostly what we get here, just as basic set for the TV show. And the book is just, like I said, just good. Nothing bad here. They did release another comic recently set in this timeline where it's called Star Trek Stargazer. And this is set between seasons 2 and 3. It's a 3-issue limited series. And I didn't actually start reading the book until after issue 2 came out, when I finished up watching season 2 of the TV show. Which I think had a pretty good ending to it. I mean, the by Q for the show, which is so awesome. And the fact about John frickin' Delancey to play Q again, which is so awesome. Not gonna spoil the ending because I like the way they handled this character in the show, despite the other stuff. They did bring also One character who actually is pictures of him does pop in the book is Data. Yes, Data does pop up in pictures. And he's mentioned a few times, but he's not seen. There's also no mention of B4. No mention of B4. Or his fate. Not really, no. But damn good stuff here. Alright, next up is from Dark Horse. Shoot. Yeah, we have... Come on, seriously? Yeah, my headset is falling over. Sorry about that. Okay. We have Skulldigger plus Skeleton Boy. This is a book done by Jeff Lemire. Mostly put for this book, you can kind of think of this as Jeff Lemire's dark, a little more darker take on the Punisher. You can kind of say that's what this is. Because you have Skulldigger beating the crap out of criminals with this skull on a freaking chain, whacking them. And as far as emphasis is called, I think it's like Green Jow, which they revealed in the series actually his father. Which I thought that was interesting. Now, yes, this is definitely from the world of Black Hammer. No characters from the Black Hammer comic book pop up in here, but this is set in the same universe. Okay, and of course, Jeff Lemire does the writing with now Skeleton Boy himself. He's kind of in a way a version of Robin, where he's taken in by basically Skulldigger, who you can see is also like a dark version of Batman. Heck, there's even a take on Batman Robin in the back of the trade, which is so awesome. There's also this detective in the book who's ordered to stay away from Skulldigger. Why? Despite the fact Skulldigger basically has probably committed crimes too. I mean, taking a lot of his own hands. Like, probably multiple counts of assault and battery on criminals. It's not been confirmed if he actually killed anybody per se, but he beat up a lot of people. Yes, a lot. But this book is actually just really good. I would probably recommend people who are fans of Black Hammer, you might actually enjoy this. And people fans of Jeff Lemire. I'm giving this book a 9 out of 10. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for Sickle Review. Next up is going to be the final episode of Season 1 for Girl for Girl. Okay, next video. Bye.